Welcome to Keep the Game Beautiful podcast. Each week, I highlight incredible people who are doing amazing things in soccer, the beautiful game. I'm Anna Turi, your host. Thank you for listening. Today, I talk with Rich Manning. So Rich was one of the first coaches I really saw on Twitter when things in soccer really started to slow down. I've seen him post some things about Zoom calls and FaceTime calls with his team, and also just a little bit of positivity. He's been very supportive and very positive with his team. So I would encourage you to use this episode to maybe think about your mindset a little bit, and if you've been really positive to your team, and maybe make a change to that now. So enjoy today's episode. Today's guest is Rich Manning. Rich currently coaches at University of Utah and has for the past 18 seasons. I met Rich at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Baltimore, and I could tell he was both very kind and down to earth. He has been very positive on Twitter, especially during this time when almost all soccer is on a break. So, Rich, would you like to take a second and fill in some of the gaps I may have missed?
No, one of the things I love about soccer is that it's the world's game and it's a big community we have, and it was great to meet you and at the convention, and it's good just to reach out to more members of our soccer community.
So on this podcast, I always start with the same 3 questions. So first, what does the beautiful game mean to you?
Well, I love soccer. I love to play it. I love to watch it. But one of the best things is just it connects so many people to each other, and I've met so many great people through the years from it. People that are from my childhood I'm still friends with, and people that I meet even today.
What are actions or things you do to keep the game beautiful?
I always go back to that people part. I think as long as you have great relationships with the people that you work with on your team and the people you're competing against, then I think everything else just kind of flows from that as far as like what we love about soccer.
How do you encourage others to keep the game beautiful?
Well, I think I try to communicate my enthusiasm for soccer and my energy to the people on our team, to the people I connect with through camps and my peers in the college scene. And I think I just always encourage people just to remember how much they loved the game when they were little and to keep that energy fresh.
So let's just start off. How are you supporting your players during this time?
Well, I have to say, I think I've been busier now at home here than I am normally with the team. We have, including our seniors, we have 32 players on our team, and they're spread out all over the world, and connecting with them on FaceTime, through Zoom, individually, just calling and texting people. I spend all my day, I feel like, connected to my computer or my phone. Now we're in our 3rd week since school kind of closed and went to online only. And so we're finding a rhythm where we can do little phone calls and group meetings, but it's a lot of work.
Why is it important for you to connect with your players?
Well, I think one of the hard things about this coronavirus is that in order to fight it, we've had to all kind of like stay at home, as they say, and that kind of weakens the connections we have. We don't see people on a daily basis, and so you really have to work hard to do that. And I think connecting with our players here at Utah keeps that energy up, reassures people, lets them, listening is a big part of it too. And I think all those things are really super important for each of us.
How have you been able to stay positive throughout this time?
I have faith. I have faith that we're doing the right thing and that the work, in order to kind of be apart for a while, it's going to help in the long run. I also have my wife, Sue, who I think and our dog, Daisy. They've kept me positive as well. We do family dinners on Zoom with my sisters and brothers and mom and dad. Those have been great. I think all those things help me stay positive.
So how can players stay positive during a time like this?
Well, as you probably know, like training's hard. You don't have your teams. It's hard to even go to a gym to work out because a lot of those are closed. And so I think it's forced each player to be creative. You have to kind of go to the park on your own and do your work, get your workouts in, get your technical workout in on your own. And I think maybe watching a little bit more on your TV or computer and watching soccer and trying to find games and ways to keep getting better. I think that's a huge challenge now. I think people will be better for it, but I think one of my jobs is to keep in touch with people to keep their energy up about it.
What should players be doing to stay active?
Anything you can. Go into your basement. Well, I don't know. Go somewhere where your parents won't get mad. If you have a little ball you can work with, some technical work, some juggling. If you're a goalkeeper, some handling. If you can go to a park, get out in the front yard, run down the street, watch out for cars. It's really important just to try and, depending on where you're at, is to use all the resources you have. Do your physical work, do your touches, do your handling. I think all those things are super important.
Why did you decide to have the Zoom meetings with your players?
Well, at first it was really kind of, when school got canceled, we were on spring break. And so we were already spread out and it was really chaotic. We didn't have a chance to have a meeting. In fact, right before spring break on March 7th, we played a game against Wyoming. And so we all went up everywhere thinking we'll come back and play some more games and keep training. And we had to reach out to everybody just to find out where they were, let them know what was going on. So we felt like the best way was just to have, team meetings. We call them the team huddles, the FaceTime huddles, so we could see each other's faces and kind of talk about what's going on. And now that everybody kind of has settled back home, we do it just to kind of keep everybody's energy up.
So that's kind of what I was going to ask you next. Like, what do you do during these calls? If there's anything else you want to just say about that.
Well, some of it is because it keeps changing. Some of it's like, okay, some of our players had to leave town for spring break and then they couldn't come back and their stuff's in their dorms and they have to find a way to go get them. Logistics, how are you going to do classes? But now it's more about, okay, how you doing? Are you feeling okay? Is everything going well where you're at? Are you able to do your schoolwork? Then we got to do things to keep each other positive. So one of our players is going to play the ukulele on Sunday at our next meeting. My wife and I, Sue, we just did a cooking class for the team on FaceTime. We did lime chicken with sweet potatoes and broccoli. It was awesome. We're going to eat it as soon as I'm done here. So someone else is going to do the cooking class next week. And we're just finding ways to stay connected because we really enjoy each other. And I think that it's important that we try to keep those connections, and even though we're apart.
Do you think this will increase the community sense in your team, or has it already been high from the start?
I think it's a really great point. I think in some ways we're getting closer. We're able to share more of ourselves. I think we're, everybody is stressed out. Things are uncertain. We want to be safe and well. And so I think we're a little more open with each other about how we're feeling. And I think those things bring you closer.
So how have you been able to, like, one-on-one, just kind of help a player along during this process?
I think the biggest thing is just listening. I always just say, how you doing? Is there anything we can do? Tell me how you're feeling. And those always start good conversations. And if there's something I can do to help, I want to help.
So why is your wanting to help so much and just having such a family support for one another helpful on the field?
I think the better your relationships, the more you're willing to work hard for each other. And when things get tough, I think we always say the better your relationships, the more you're willing to hold each other accountable to your standard. And I think what we're doing now is we're investing time into each other to make those relationships better. And that will help us work better.
So on your team, do you focus a lot on keeping each other accountable?
We do, and that was a big focus since when we came back from Christmas, from January through March. We were really spending a lot of time on what are our standards, how can we create standards that are observable, and then how do we communicate to each other that we need to keep those standards up, we need to be accountable to them. And that's a process, I think, for every team. And we were kind of, about 2 months into it, and we're trying to do that now virtually. And it's one of the biggest challenges for a team, I think.
How have you seen the players change since you started talking about accountability a little more?
I think in many ways they've been more open to, just open, like an open attitude about it, an open mindset about, okay, this is important. This is going to help us be successful. And sometimes it's hard to communicate those things. Sometimes it's hard to keep those standards up, but we have to do it. And I've seen kind of some growth in those areas.
Should players graduating in 2020 or 2021 be worried about the recruitment process because of Corona?
So you're speaking about like the high school graduates in those years? No, I mean, this is a stressful time. We're all worried about our safety and well-being, and I'm sure thinking about the future is stressful. But I think one of my messages has been, when we get back to schools being open and soccer being played, we'll get a chance to see you. And we're still going to need players. And I think you do the best you can now. I've encouraged some prospects to send video. That's a great way to see people. And I think they just, when things back open up, I think you'll end up at the place you were meant to be.
So when recruiting, what do you see about a character of a player?
I think I can see character in the way they play, how they respond to adversity on the field, how they interact with their teammates in good times and bad. And then I can learn about character by speaking to their coaches. Once we're talking to them directly, I think I can learn about their character just through our conversations. And all three of those things are important.
Why is it important?
I think from what we were talking about earlier about holding the team and the players to standards and being able to hold each other accountable, I think someone's character is really important to that. And there's a lot of talented players that maybe don't have those same goals or those same standards. And I think it's important to find the right ones for your team and for the players to find the right team for them.
So what do you say to a player that maybe doesn't have the best character but has a lot of talent on the field?
We talk about, I think, the standards that we have on our team, why character is important, and we have an open discussion about if they think they can train and play and interact to those standards. And if they can, great. We might still continue to recruit them. If they can't, then we say, maybe there's another place that's a better fit.
So I've been seeing a lot of what you've been posting on Twitter. How do you think this has impacted players, just the positivity?
Oh, I don't know. I hope it makes people smile and makes them remember how much fun soccer is and the community that we have. I like to have fun, and if they can do that, great.
Why is it important to see positive things on social media platforms during this time?
Yeah, I love to smile. I love to connect with people that have a really positive attitude about things. It's a hard time. It's stressful. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of stress. It's dangerous a little bit out there, and we have to change the way we live and interact. And I think if we can smile and enjoy that along the way, then it just helps everybody stay well.
So I know you're very much a people person. Have you always been like this?
I am super introverted, so it's a challenge for me to kind of get out there. I'm getting pretty old now, so I've been at it for a while, and I've learned to kind of just enjoy it and have fun and not be so, I guess, stressed about I got to go talk to people. I got to get on the radio. I got to get on the internet, got to get on social media, just trying to have fun with it.
Were you really stressed and uptight when you first started your coaching career?
Oh yeah, no question.
How has that changed, and why do you think?
I think the biggest thing is learning that I don't have to be perfect, that I'm going to make mistakes. I have to be willing to try different things and get out of my comfort zone. And I think having an attitude of, yeah, I'm going to make mistakes too, but as long as I have an open mind and I communicate the best I can about it, then we're all in the same boat and we'll be better off in the long run. So I might as well just enjoy it.
So for younger coaches that are more like introverts like you kind of are now, what would you tell them?
Be yourself, move forward with what you believe in, stick to what you love about the game, what you think is important about teamwork. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And at the end of the day, I think if you care about people and you care about your team, and if you communicate the best you can, then it'll work out and you'll end up being successful.
Have you ever supported any of your players to become coaches?
For sure. It's one of my favorite things. I love seeing some of our players kind of take their expertise and their energy for soccer and then share it with other people. And a lot of times, what we do is sometimes we have players that kind of coach us through parts of practice with our team. They take over meetings. We have a lot of camps and clinics, and they get to run sessions for that. And that helps them kind of hone their skills. And then when they graduate, there's so many young players that need help at the youth level, the high school level, the college level, even the professional level. And then they're kind of hopefully prepared to kind of jump into that.
Do you ever have players that maybe have never thought of coaching, but you think they might actually be pretty good at it?
100%. We have some players that I think, okay, if I thought who would be most likely to coach on the team, this person would be near the bottom of the list. And they've been fantastic coaches. And that's one of the most wonderful things I've seen.
How does staying positive when first starting out your coaching career help?
I think the biggest thing is it's hard. There's so many moving targets. You're trying to spin all these kind of different plates. And it's funny because the players on our team, they think all we do is show up at the field, blow our whistle, do a little warm up, do some skills, and then we go home and we never think about it and nothing else happens. And we have all these other parts of the job. And I think it's important as you're learning that you don't get too down on yourself because, you're going to have some learning moments and you have to stay positive and believe in yourself and work through it.
How do you bounce back from mistakes?
That's been one of the hardest lessons for me as a person is I get really, really down on myself. And I think when I was younger, I would be sulking for a while and upset that things didn't go the way I wanted to. And I think what I've learned is that, it's most important just to stay in the moment and work from where you're at that day. And nobody's going to go undefeated. No player is going to play a perfect game. No coach is going to coach a perfect game. And I think that's a really important lesson. I think if you want to be perfect, then you got to try something like darts or horseshoes or something like that. Soccer is not a game of perfection at all. And that's been one of the lessons I think that was hardest for me to learn. And I feel like I've improved in that area.
How has this helped you with players that maybe will really down on themselves after making a mistake?
Well, yeah, I think that's, to me, I sympathize with that the most because I know that's how I was as a player and I have been as a coach. And I think it's easy for me just to try to communicate the importance of, you got to move on because this is going to happen.
So you mentioned being a player too. When you played, did you ever consider coaching?
I don't know if I ever thought of it, but when I think back, I was always going to my coach's office during the day in college and just hanging out and talking soccer and asking him, what he was doing now and what he was doing to get the team ready and what he was doing in the off season. It was more of just coming there as kind of wanting someone to talk to and a friend and a mentor. And I don't think I thought of, I want to go learn how to be a coach. But I think in hindsight, I really wanted to do that and I was trying to learn.
How did playing help you when coaching?
I think just having a really clear idea of what is hard about playing, what's most challenging, and then what kind of standard each player can reach. That what's hard, what's a good level, but also attainable for each person, and being able to push people towards that.
Do you think a good coach also has to be a good player or has to play before?
Not at all. In fact, I think the most important things about coaching is communication. Communication, positivity, kind of are more important than even the soccer part. You got to have a certain level of expertise, but I think if you're a good communicator and you're a positive person, you can be really successful.
How can coaches get better at communicating?
Really focusing on your listening, taking feedback from others, whether it be players, fellow coaches, mentors, supervisors, and kind of really listening to what's effective and what could be done better.
Were you always a good communicator or did that take time too?
That took me a lot of time. I love soccer. I know the game really well. I'm a positive person, but being able to really be focused on, hey, this is what I need to tell this person now. This is what I need to tell the team now. This is the best way to say this. These are things to let go. This is when I need to listen. Knowing those moments, I think, has taken me maybe longer than some other people, but it's been really rewarding to kind of, I guess, get better in that area.
What are some of your best memories with your team that you're kind of remembering right now?
Well, I'm thinking most recently we had a Valentine's Day practice, and we all the players got roses, and the smiles on their faces was great. I can think of challenging, fitness that we did or technical sessions where they kind of rose to the challenge. Last fall, we were kind of on the bubble to make the NCAA tournament. And, when the moment when they announced that we got in, seeing the joy on the team's faces, those are the things that are really great memories right now.
Why is it so important to add a little fun into some practices?
I think you got to enjoy it. Soccer's for fun. Got to make, there's times to really push each other. There's times when you're going to learn some hard lessons, but I think you got to enjoy the journey for sure.
So I think we've made it to our last question.
Uh-oh.
The last question is, what do you hope people will remember about your impact to soccer and the world?
I think mostly, that I want to be known as a good person, that I tried to do the right thing, tried to help people, both in the game and then, in the things that they want to do off the field, help them be successful. And that I was a lot of fun. I think those things would be most important.
Talking to Rich, you can tell he's super positive and supportive towards his team. I encourage you to maybe have a similar mindset as him and try and always stay positive and just support your team in whatever they need. And as always, stay safe and healthy. And until I see you next time, remember to keep the game beautiful.